Hey y'all, welcome to my YouTube channel. Reviews may vary. I'm Kenya, and so I am going to just tell you about the 3 books I finished yesterday. I really like to end a month with no books kind of in progress, and so I had 2 audiobooks that I wasn't finished with yet and 1 print book, and I'm going to try and read 1 more print book before the end of the month. So anyway, let's just get into it. So the book I read in print, I took the dust jacket off because I don't like to read with the dust jacket on, was Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. And I didn't realize that I'd read another book by this author last year, Hurricane Child. They were publishing under a different name at that time. So I really also enjoyed that book. So Felix Ever After is about a 17-year-old trans male who goes to a fancy art school and sometimes splits his life, his living time with his one of his best friends who has a lot of money, and his dad who he lives with after his mom left them when he was 10, and they don't have a lot of money. So it's I think a pretty common trope, right, to have a main character adolescent who is in these, like, lives their life with this rich group of peers, but then goes home to this not rich family. And he's struggling a lot with, you know, his mom left him and is he lovable and all those kinds of things. So one day he walks into his fancy art school, and the pictures from his old Instagram account from when he was more feminine presenting are in the art gallery with his dead name. And part of the book is him trying to figure out who it was that he's out as a trans male, or at least he's not in. Everybody kind of knows, but they just don't talk about it. But he obviously doesn't want all those pictures and his dead name to be out. So he's trying to figure that out and is a little bit obsessed with it, and enter a but starts spending more time with somebody that he doesn't like in order to kind of figure that mystery out. And in the meantime, somebody starts texting him and taunting him about being trans. So he's trying to talk to somebody who he doesn't like and keep his identity a secret, and somebody else is trying to talk to him via text and keep their identity a secret. And then he's got this best friend who's like a pit bull in defense of him and how he's doing. Ezra, who is just one of my favorite characters in YA fiction right now. So just finished that book, which was really good. And Leah is another friend. So the supporting characters are really great. I actually didn't love the main character a lot, like through most of the book. But that's kind of typical for me, you know, because the main character's focus is almost always very like internally focused. So I was like, okay, we get it. But I really liked him by the end, and I really liked his supporting characters. And then I finished 2 audiobooks. The first was The Mother of Black Hollywood by Jennifer Lewis, a memoir. Jennifer Lewis is an actress, started off on Broadway and really had a lot of talent, but also a lot of luck to be able to be cast really early on after she graduated from college. And then she transitioned to TV and screen. And she talks a little bit about how it was difficult to switch the skills of being like big and dynamic on stage to being a screen actress. So that was an interesting thing. She's also someone who is kind of, and I think she says this, she's an obnoxious diva. She's loud, she's annoying, she likes things to be her way. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when she was in her 30s. As I often talk about, interestingly, she had an early trauma history that nobody mentions as part of her bipolar, but I'm not going to get on my soapbox about that. So it was an interesting book I think one of the things that, because she thinks really highly of her talent, which makes a lot of sense. She's very talented. She's gotten a lot of feedback about that. One of the things that helps that not seem so annoying is that she's also really generous with understanding and recognizing other people's talent. So she talks about how great she is, but she also talks about the wonderful people that she's gotten to work with during her career. And so I liked it overall. And then the third book was Sex Lives of Siamese Twins by Irvin Welsh. So if you have never read anything by him, he is the Scottish author who wrote Trainspotting. So maybe you've seen that movie. But if you have any sensitivities about your body or what people force people to do with their bodies, he is not an author for you. And this book would have trigger warnings. And I guess, so Felix Ever After would have trigger warnings related to transphobia, because he struck, people are teasing him about that. The Jennifer Lewis book, there was an early molestation and some mental illness, and she talks about some of her manic episodes and her depressive episodes. And then in this book, the Sex Lives of Siamese Twins, trigger warnings for all the things, sexual assault, death, really anything. She's also racist and homophobic and uses slurs a lot. So I would say if you don't like that sort of thing, then don't read this. But it's a book about a young woman in Miami Beach who is a personal trainer, and she is pretty much disgusted by anyone who has any extra weight on their body. And so she works to help people lose weight. And one night she is drunk and stops somebody from being killed in the middle of the highway. And somebody else is on the highway and records that on their phone and then releases the footage. And then her life, I can't even think of what her name is. It might be, I have no idea. Her life, starts to take a good turn. She's really crass. She's got, a sailor's vocabulary. She grew up with a dad who was on the police force and became a crime writer. Some terrible things happened to her when she was young. She's very promiscuous, and in a very use the other person kind of way. So she's certainly not a hero of the story. And the woman who recorded the incident on her phone is really fascinated with her, and they enter into this completely abusive relationship together. That's good, but a lot of weird stuff happens before that. The ongoing theme within the book is this news story of two Siamese twins who in Arkansas who are thinking about being separated so that one can have a loving relationship, but the other one is likely to die if that happens. So I think that's really where the title comes from, with this theme of how these two women are kind of linked together, and good things happen for one in ways that mirror not good things happening for the other one. It was actually a really good book. Again, it could be hard to get through for a lot of people, but it's a lot of interesting concepts to think about. So those are the 3 books that I finished yesterday. Felix Ever After I started and finished. It was a quick read and really good. And then the other 2 audiobooks I had started last week. And let me know if you've read any of those 3 books and what you think. Bye.